Welcome, everyone. My name is Alyssa Best. I am a career advisor working with students and alumni here at American University. I work with alumni across multiple schools. I know I've had a chance to work with some of the folks who are here on this call. And back by popular demand, we have Hallie Crawford and doing a new topic, a new topic for us, I should say. So I'm excited. I always learn something new from Hallie's webinars and presentations, and I know you all are in for a treat. The topic today, as you all know, is how to adapt to and adopt AI to get ahead and stay relevant. And we'll leave plenty of time for Q&A. I'll also be monitoring questions in the chat as well and the Q&A. So if folks have, don't worry about waiting till the end. If you have a question, just, pop in. We'll give you a chance uh, we want to make this interactive as well. So if you haven't had a chance to learn from Hallie before, oh, give me one moment. Okay, there it goes. I'd say you heard the bio just my page disappeared for a moment. Now it's back. I'm excited to introduce certified career coach Hallie Crawford. In addition to being a certified career coach, Hallie's a speaker and an author based in Atlanta, Georgia. Her coaching company helps people find and succeed in their dream job. Since 2002, her team of coaches has helped thousands of people. She's been featured in the media, including the US News, Forbes, CNN, Money Magazine, and the Wall Street Journal. She has an undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt University and a master's degree from the University of Illinois. And so, with that, I would like to give an energetic welcome to Hallie. Take it away.
Thank you so much. And you say the back by popular demand, and I feel like I want to add that into my bio, but I have to be honest too. So,
I've
so
unofficially added it to ours, so you could add that too. Yes. When you do speaking engagements when you do repeat speaking engagements for other folks, feel free to
that's
co-opt
right. Right? I mean, it's awesome. So I really appreciate the intro. Thank you all for being here today. We know that it's summertime, but this is a hot topic, obviously. Okay, no pun intended. But this is a big topic for everyone because what we've found with our clients is that some people are doing, and racing ahead with adopting AI within their work. And some organizations are actually helping their employees do so. And then some are less apt to do that or just haven't done it yet. So we know that there's a lot of questions out there, and we're excited to present this because we know a lot of people are trying to kind of figure things out related to AI. And I just have to say too, and then we'll dive in. It's the title is not meant to be a total tongue twister, but we do need to adapt and learn how to adopt it in the right ways, which is what we're going to be talking about today, obviously as well. So we already had a great intro. I'm not going to belabor it. I love what I do. I've been coaching since 2002. We've got a fantastic team of coaches who provide our one-on-one services. I host our boot camps and webinars like this. And I always tell people up front as well that the advice we're going to give you today is advice that we give to all of our clients to help them figure out how AI fits into the workplace for them as it relates to their industry because it's so different, across the board, right? And as Alyssa already shared too, I always say this up front as well because I'm the same way. I love like taking notes because I think that helps me kind of learn and process information. We will share the slides, so feel free to take some notes if you'd like to, but we'll give you a link to that in just a moment as well. And as a reminder, too, you'll also have access to the recordings. So you can listen in later because I know also that there's a lot of information that we are going to share today, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by it. So pick one thing that makes the most sense for you from today that you can implement at work in the next couple of weeks. And then remember, you can go back and revisit later so that you don't feel overwhelmed. Say, okay, what's one tangible thing that makes the most sense for me in my situation? Then I can revisit things and start to implement things a little bit more later. Because, especially, and then we'll look at this next slide with things like AI. It takes a minute. We are not expecting you to be some expert within 2 weeks. It's the type of thing where you need to kind of play around with it to figure out what makes the most sense for you and your workplace. So, if we look at this slide, why obviously this is so important is because we can leverage AI for so many different things at work for productivity, for leadership and or management like communication, but also building those strengths over time. AI can help you come up with and brainstorm ideas about like how to advance your career and how to move forward. Skill requirements if you end up at any point looking for a new job or again or looking for that next promotion. They can help people in HR with hiring processes and resume screening. So there's just so many different ways that it's impacting the workplace, regardless of the role or industry that you're in. And what we want to talk about today, and here's the QR code to grab the slides, just by the way, if you want to pop out your phone. And I'm actually going to put a link to the slides in the chat box. So if you would do me a favor and click that link and make sure that it goes to a form for me, that will make sure that it's at least the link is working. And what we're going to discuss today are three different keys here is number one, common fears and concerns or issues related to AI, which is completely normal because a lot of people are worried about the impact of it, pros and cons, just like anything else, right? With our second key, we're going to talk about practical ways that you can use it effectively and correctly because we want to be careful with AI about things like confidentiality and realizing that it's not always going to have the right information. So we need to make sure that we're using it in the right way, but vetting out the information that it gives us, right? And then our third key will be to start developing or for you to develop a plan for you to start to implement it a little bit more at work, again, in whatever makes sense for you or whatever situation it does. And Alyssa already mentioned this, but at the bottom right-hand side here, please do me a favor and find the Q&A box and the chat box because we are going to use both of those today. I invite questions and comments throughout. So we will have time for Q&A at the end, but please put them in earlier. If something comes to mind, I'd love to answer it along the way and prefer for these to be more interactive. So just to make sure that you go ahead and don't feel hesitant to put anything in there. All right, so let's talk about our common fears and concerns first. And I just want you to know that, I've been there. Like I don't want to say I was an early or like really late, I should say, adopter with AI, but I'm the type of person that I'm using it. I use it on a more regular basis, but it took me a little while. And honestly, sometimes with us, and our clients as well, sometimes we forget, like, oh, wait, I could ask AI that question or get ideas. So it's the type of thing that I'm even starting to have to remind myself to use. Now, let's take a look at the first two items on the left, and then we'll go across the slide here to the right. So, concerns, understandably, are will AI replace my job? And will my skills become obsolete? What I want you to know is that it's not going to replace your job completely. It will change things. And in some cases, years down the line, yes, it might replace some jobs. What we're starting to see are reports coming out, though, which is good news, where organizations, let's say, have already, if they had let go or laid off people in favor of leveraging AI instead of those people, they're starting to hire those people back because they've realized that it doesn't replace human thinking, which it does not. That critical thinking, that strategizing, that's still going to need to happen with a human being. If we look at the middle, am I already behind? Don't worry if you feel like you are. That's why we're here today. We're going to talk about how to get you going with this. And I would definitely, though, be talking with your coworkers and even people at other organizations about how they're leveraging AI. So you can start to learn like tips and tricks from other people as well. How do I keep up with all of the changes? We do not expect you to suddenly become this AI expert. Like what I find with the changes is that continuing to use it over time, talking with other people, learning from your organization what their rules and guidelines are and what their suggestions are is going to be really helpful. But this is the type of thing that you can also learn things over time by, for example, subscribing to your industry specific newsletter for your association because like industry associations, they're inevitably going to be talking about these types of things. So I would be networking more, talking with other people more, and checking out the blogs and articles online from your industry association because they're going to be discussing these things. So let's go ahead and launch our first poll here for today if we could. And I just want to remind you of the right-hand side that we don't want you to be driven by fear here. We want you to stay on top of things and pay attention, but know that you can get caught up pretty quickly. And what this is going to be about at the end of the day is learning how to adapt to the changing workforce and workplace over time. All right, so we've got 50-50 here. If we look at these results, thank you for participating and sharing. More people have experimented or never used it, which makes perfect sense. That's why you're here. So, we're going to help give you some beginning steps that can help you start to test the waters with AI so that you can start to figure out what's going to make the most sense for you. And please don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm already behind. I have found for me, and I'm not the most techie person, I'm good enough to be dangerous. Like, I've figured it out pretty quickly. And obviously, that's what we're going to talk about today, too. So, let's take a look at just to address these fears and concerns a little bit more. Those human skills of critical thinking, emotional intelligence, building relationships, everything on this list here cannot be replaced by AI. So, please know that while I want you to be savvy and pay attention to how it's changing your organization, how it's changing your industry, and maybe your role as well, is that there are so many things that it cannot replace completely that we want you to understand that these are the skills too, that if you can start to or continue to build on these for yourself, this is how you can kind of stay ahead of how things are changing as well. And with technical skills, we do want you to get a little bit more literate with AI, with interpreting the data it gives you, and just digital fluency in general. These are skills that are going to be required and needed over time, especially as AI progresses on the top right here. But that sense of being adaptable, strong communication skills, that collaboration, problem solving, and leadership. Again, you can get ideas, for example, from AI about how to communicate more effectively in certain situations, how to be more collaborative. You can get ideas from it, but again, it's not always going to be right. You've got to process the information yourself based on what is going on for you at work. Okay. So think of AI, bottom line, is almost like a brainstorming partner, if you will. Okay. So these are the things that are most likely to change over time at work that you want to just make a note of that AI can start to replace or help with, whether it's administrative, data processing. In some cases, people will use it for content creation or generation, but you always want to edit it because it's going to sound like a computer. And any like repetitive tasks that you're performing at work, these are the types of things that you can start to think about. Okay, could I leverage AI to help me with some of my administrative work, for example, or those repetitive tasks? The things that AI cannot replace and that are going to continue to grow and value over time. So, what you want to focus on as a professional to stay competitive and relevant are listed here. Problem solving, strategic planning, the things that we've talked about already on the past several slides. So, think about and please focus on developing skills that AI can complement rather than what it replaces. And I saw a question come through. I'll answer this in just um, a quick moment. One of the things that I did want to recommend, though, with AI technical skills, two places, actually, I'll just answer right now, that I would look, sorry, is I would be looking at LinkedIn Learning for AI skills because that is a really robust platform that's very good. Coursera has really good AI courses as well. But what I would honestly recommend, kind of the most for this, is I would be looking at suggestions for AI courses and even asking your industry specific association. Because when you're thinking about AI technical skills, and I'm just going to move to this slide here so you can take a look at this while we're answering, is to try to take a class that gives you industry specific technical skills. Like, is it going to be more content generation for you or more data analysis? I would ask your industry association for those recommendations because that's going to give you even more like honed or fine-tuned ones as well. So if you're looking for more generic, LinkedIn Learning and Coursera, otherwise let's go to your industry specific association and see if they either have courses that they offer or recommendations as well. So let's think about how we can start to consider to use AI in our daily life right now. Baby steps is fine, as we said earlier. It can actually help you with a lot of different tasks and accelerate your career by helping you save time with certain things like content creation, data analysis, gathering information from multiple different places, for example. It can also help you improve productivity, increase your visibility within your organization, help you learn things faster, make better decisions, and focus on higher value work. So the goal here is not to feel like, oh, I'm competing with it. It's how do I leverage it? So, as we said earlier, just to kind of piggyback on this for a second, and then we'll do our second poll in just one moment here. It's think of you can ask AI any question that you want to related to your work. So, for example, I'll just give a couple of question or examples here, and you're welcome for answering the question. Thanks for saying that in the chat. Like, think of it as someone that you might be talking to, whether it's a brainstorming partner or you could think of it as a coworker, maybe, and say, how do I rewrite this meeting agenda in a more effective way if I want to achieve XYZ goals? Another way that you could leverage it is give me all the data and information related to this particular type of project that I'm working on. What are some of the best practices? So you want to think about it as information gathering and analysis in some ways as well, but almost like you're talking to another human being that just happens to be a supercomputer, obviously, with access to all of this data. Now, when you start to use it and leverage it, remember that it's not always going to be right, just like a human being. So, this is what we're going to be talking about a little bit more today when we think about like we need to double check the information, et cetera, et cetera. But it can help you be more effective and efficient with prioritizing your time. With like, we've even had clients who have to generate like not just a meeting agenda, but maybe like a PowerPoint presentation or something like that. And you can ask AI to create things like that, reports, etc., for you. So, this is where it can help you save time in a lot of different ways. So let's do our second poll here, if we could. And I'm curious because we've been talking about people's concerns and fears, and then we'll keep going with our advice as well as we go. But curious how you all feel about it as well. And it's understandable if you're like, it's a little bit concerning or it makes me a little bit, nervous. Like that's why we're here to help you kind of wade into the shallow end of the pool, so to speak, if that feels better for you. And we'll give you a moment to complete this. I will tell you that at first I was number two, necessary but overwhelming. And I do feel like the more you practice with it, it's really the type of thing that just starting to use it will help you feel more comfortable over time. And it's not like you have to do it 8 hours a day. Like if you say to yourself, for example, I'm going to use it for, 3 tasks every day or something like that, that's fine. So this is interesting. Okay, great. So we've got 25% if you look at our results that feel like it's exciting, which is great, necessary, but overwhelming. This is part of what we're going to be continuing to discuss today. And for those of you who feel like it's a concern for your career too, please go ahead and actually anybody, but please go ahead and share any of your feelings and thoughts inside of the chat box too, because I'm happy to answer any questions or kind of address what some of those concerns or how you're feeling as we go too. So here's kind of I don't want to say a quick quiz per se, but signs that your career or your work may need a little bit of an upgrade. So, for example, this is how you will know, and also maybe where you will know you may need to or could use a little bit more AI. For example, first one, if you spend a lot of time on repetitive tasks, that can help, or knowing that can help you understand, okay, I might need to get some help with AI if there's a lot of things that I do during the course of my day that are really repetitive and maybe similar in nature. If you're not using them at all, that's one of the signs. Let's try to stick our toe in the water a little bit. If your industry is really rapidly changing and you're noticing, for example, that a lot of your colleagues are starting to use it, or people that you know at other organizations, or just what you're hearing through the grapevine. If the job descriptions that you look at, just whether you're job searching or not, mention AI skills, this can give you a sense that you might need to be leveraging it a little bit more. And if you notice that your colleagues are becoming a little bit more efficient with it, this is a sign that you want to start to stick your toe in the water and start to use this a little bit more. Again, you can take your time with it over time. So here are different ways, and then we're going to talk on the next slide about some example prompts. Because the way AI works is the more information and background and context that you provide it for what you are looking for it to answer for you, the better the answer is that you are going to get. So lots of different things we can use it for. Career management, whether it's, job searching or research or skill gap analysis, thinking about how I can get ahead. What are the top 5 skills I need to be looking at to get ahead in my career? And this is my career title and my career path now and where I'm looking to go. That could be an example prompt. At work now, currently, to be more effective and efficient, it can help you draft emails, especially if something is like a little bit touchy or you're a little bit uncomfortable with how to word something in a more positive, productive way. It can help you with meeting summaries, brainstorming ideas, research, and even project planning. I need help planning out this project. So, can you give me some action steps there and how to move in the right direction? And organizing your thoughts, it can help with this as well. And I saw a question come through. Let's take a look on this next slide at the example prompts. And someone is saying, which is completely reasonable, what concerns me the most is entry-level roles will be replaced by AI. I want to work for the federal government, and there will be significantly fewer opportunities for those still educated but less experienced. At the same time, it can help me because I have poor quantitative skills and I can have AI do it for me. I'm in the same boat. I'm not great with data analysis, etc. So, what I would say, and I totally understand what you're saying, entry level roles are going to, like, some of them are going to go away to a certain extent, but here's how I think of it is more so Remember the statistic in the reports that I was talking about earlier, where organizations are already starting to find that when they try to replace human beings, even for entry-level roles with AI, it doesn't work because they're not going to have this other context and these other things that only human beings can do. So it's an understandable concern, but try to think about this instead for us, please, is that those entry-level roles are just going to be different and look a little bit different. So, for example, you will be required to work on and provide analysis of some of those administrative tasks or perform them. But in an ideal world, to get that job, you're demonstrating that you are able to leverage technology and you're savvy enough to help get the like AI or other technical help with it. Okay. So I feel like the opportunities are going to be a little bit different versus dramatically reduced. In some cases, there will be fewer, but it's a little bit more about saying, like, okay, this is an entry level role, and how do I make sure that I position myself in the right way? So let me know if that makes sense for you and your situation. And I do think, like I said, it's more about like AI being a tool that you can use to help you be more effective with those entry level roles. So let's take a look at, and thanks for that. Glad it was helpful kind of as a starting point there. Let's look at some of these example prompts, and I want to share a couple of things here. So, what you will start to learn over time as you're using AI is that certain prompts will, and the way you word things, will give you better information and information that is more aligned with what you're looking for. So, we said earlier, it's almost like what I would say with AI is we want you to be long-winded. We want you to give it more information. The more information, the better your answer will be based on what you gave it and the question that you asked. So there are certain things here that you can ask it for certain situations. Other example prompts can be things like, give me a meeting agenda for, a team of 6 people. We need to talk about these 10 things or whatever it is. Adjust it based on priority and tell me how much time each element should take. Now, what we want to be careful of is that when it spits information back out to you, we don't want you to just copy and paste it and take it blindly because remember, with AI, it's not always going to be right. So you still need to use that critical thinking. You might need to make adjustments, etc. But the more information you can give it by even saying, this is my role. I have a team of these type of people, these types of people, and they are in this role. Help me come up with the best way to present this information. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more. Oh, and sorry, I wanted to say one other thing. Let's go back to the prompts for just 1 second. Um, you can start to create, especially for those repetitive tasks or administrative types of tasks that you might be performing. You can start to create a prompt or content prompt bank for yourself where you keep a Word document on your desktop. This is the best way to ask this question for these results that I need for my work. So think of this also as you start to play around with it a little bit and you're starting to get a sense of, okay, this gave me the right information. Create a bank of prompts that you can plug in next time when you need to get that same information, especially if it's something that is like a regular kind of task for you to perform on a regular basis. Okay. So as you're using it, remember that it's great as a brainstorming idea generator or organizing your thoughts or creating something for you from scratch. I'm like that. I do better if I have something to work from, whether it's creating an email or analyzing data or whatever it is. But we want to caution you as well in these ways because it can and will fall short in different ways. Don't have it make major career decisions for you. Be careful when you're thinking about like assessing how well you're doing as a leader within your organization, or it can help you, for example, at the very bottom with ideas about how to negotiate sensitive workplace issues or help you analyze information and all of that good stuff. But remember, it's providing information to you. You provide the judgment about whether that information is correct, accurate, etc. And I'll give you a couple of examples here. So, number one, I asked AI to give me some stats for a presentation the other day. And when I dug deeper into where that information came from, because when you ask for information, for example, in either ChatGPT or Claude.ai, those are the two that I like. And it's Claude, Claude, .ai, it gave me old data from years ago. So again, this is where you've got to be careful with it. We had a client the other day tell us he attended an AI. It was a course provided through his organization. And the presenter said that if you tell AI that someone with 20 years of experience is going to evaluate its responses, it thinks harder and works harder to give you more accurate information. So, bottom line, you need to be careful and always double check its work. When we were presenting on this topic a few weeks ago, someone told us that they had it create like a project plan for them, but it left out a few key missing pieces. So never just copy and paste the content from AI. Always make sure that you're double checking it just in case. Okay. Always verify, etc. Look at the left-hand side of this slide if we would. The other thing that I wanted to mention related to this on the left-hand side too is there is, and I'm not sure why it's like this, maybe it was built that way, whatever, but AI, it wants to please you and give you an answer that you will like or kind of agree with you. And so this is why you want to be careful with it and say, like, for example, someone else is going to check your work, but also you double check it as well. And just know that when you're listening or reading, not listening to, sorry, when you're reading the response, you want to filter it through like it's wanting to agree with me, so I need to press it a little bit harder. And you could even say, are you sure that's the right way to go? Here are my concerns, for example. Okay. So that's number one on the left-hand side related to some common mistakes that people will make. Number two in the middle is using it as a search engine. It's not Google. It doesn't retrieve real-time information like immediate stuff. It's going to pull things from lots of different places, etc. So you don't want to necessarily use it for current news or live data because you might get some outdated answers. So you'll start to learn over time the difference between the two. And again, it's just simple double checking, whatever answers it gives you. And on the far right, another common mistake, which we've already talked about, so we'll start to go to this next slide, is making sure that you're not vague with your questions. Be really specific and clear about exactly what you're looking for and make sure that you're providing as much context as you can. And if you don't get the answer that you need, ask it again and say, no, I need it to be like this or whatever it is. Now, a couple of other mistakes that we want to be careful about is that in an ideal world, especially with corporate information, don't share or put in sensitive information. Now, here's what I'll say, and this is where it is a good idea to speak with HR or whoever might be managing or dealing with AI at your current workplace, is find out from them like if they have like in-house, so to speak, AI account where that confidential data isn't going to be leaked or go anywhere else. So just find out what your current organization's policies are as it relates to confidentiality and specific things that you might be plugging in to AI. The second mistake, again, you want to be careful with this. Don't make just major, huge decisions just based on AI. You can use it for ideas. And the third mistake that sometimes, and I understand this because it can feel overwhelming, is that if you don't get the right response right away, like don't assume that it's not going to give you the information that you need over time. You can ask it a quick follow-up, like make this more concise or give me a different angle. Sometimes this can actually dramatically improve your results. So see it as, again, someone almost that you're talking to, and you can say, I need this to be different, and get it to work for you. Okay. And then the other mistake that people make, especially today, understandably, is not starting to build it into like a workflow over time. Like, how am I going to start using this in my work on a more regular basis? So this is one of the questions I want you all to think about after we're finished today is where can you start to build this into your routine, even if it's slowly but surely. It doesn't, again, have to be this huge dramatic change. And we'll give you some tips on how to do that. So here are some action steps that we can start to think about, and we'll dig more into these before we get to our Q&A in the next few moments. To just become more literate, so to speak, with AI is about how to interact with it and how to ask the right prompts and kind of having that communication thread going with it so you understand how you can get what you need. Make sure that you're continuing to focus on strengthening those human-centered skills, which goes back to what we talked about earlier with those entry-level jobs. And try to stay curious and adaptable with it, continuously learn what it can help you with and where you need to be careful with it. And it can also help you, or you want to be known for, okay, I'm really good at solving problems and ones that are complex, for example, that AI can't necessarily solve. So let's do our next poll here and what your biggest kind of challenge is. And it could be where to start, finding ways to use it, keeping up with those changes. I'm going to hop to the next slide here so you can take a look at this as we do this. And these are the questions that I want you to start to think about that will help you generate your action steps on how to leverage this in the right way. So remember, all of the different, here's what I would say about the different kind of platforms that are out there for AI. If your organization uses, for example, Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever it is, use whatever they're giving you or whatever they recommend because hopefully they've thought about it and that's kind of the best one for you. I feel like if you want to try out different ones to just get different answers to things and different perspectives, you can. But make sure that whatever it is that your organization is wanting to use, you're focusing there first. Knowing where to start, okay, finding practical ways to use it and keeping up with the changes. That makes perfect sense. Let's talk about those practical ways to use it. And please know when we're thinking about keeping up with the changes over time, this is going to be about how you stay on top of what is changing within your industry and how different people are using it. So, checking in with your organization, checking in with and talking with your colleagues about how they're using it in different ways can be incredibly helpful, especially within your organization. So, the first question to ask yourself, and we will even have clients do like a time log tracker over the course of like 3 or 5 days at work, a typical week at work. One of the first things you can start to do and think about is say, okay, where do I spend the majority of my time? On what types of tasks and which ones are a little bit more repetitive than others? Which ones are the ones that AI could help me with? Okay. And this is what you want to ask yourself first. And even if you do just like a quick handwritten journal over the next 5 days and say, okay, I spend the majority of my time here and here. And these are the types of things that are either more administrative or more complex that I could start to leverage AI for a little bit more. Then, as part of this, you want to start to build it into your routine. Pick one repetitive task you do every week. So, these are some examples here on this next slide. And say, okay, I'm going to practice with AI and see what comes out of this in the next week and see how it's helpful, where it helps, where it doesn't help quite as much. And I need to make sure I do a little bit more. We talked about number two here on the bottom left of this slide, starting to build a prompt library. So instead of having to start from scratch every time, you have a go-to kind of questions that you can ask that help you get more consistent, positive, or good results that are helpful to you. The next thing you can do, looking at this next slide, is to attach it to things you already do. So, for example, if you're planning for your work week, you can have AI help you do that. I'm a blah, blah, blah. These are the types of tasks that I normally have to perform during a given work week. What's a good like project plan for the rest of my week, for example? Or every time you sit down to write a new email or, respond to someone, you're starting to use AI to get some suggestions. Before you do something, you can try an AI first rule before you Google something or you ask a colleague, say, okay, I'm going to try AI and see what comes out of it. Remember, please, one of the things that you have to be careful of, remember, don't copy and paste just what exactly AI says in terms of communication, especially, for example, if you're writing an email, because it may not always be right. And people can start to tell. They're starting to get savvy to, oh, this was written by AI. So you just want to be careful about that. As part of building it into your routine, another thing you can do is do a weekly 10-minute review. What worked with AI this week? What didn't work? What do I want to try to do differently? What are those small adjustments that I may want to make and how I leveraged it this week? And another thing that you can do is say, okay, I want to try to use it for something new and different this week, for preparing a presentation or analyzing data or helping me organize my thoughts for this particular meeting or a meeting agenda. So, one of the ways you can kind of practice with it yourself is to say, I'm going to try it for this particular thing. Like, analyze this Excel spreadsheet with these percentages and data that I need to present to my boss. Let's see what it says. And when you try to use it for different things, like for different situations, you'll start to learn where it works really well for you, where you need to help it a little bit more, or what might be best for you to do on your own. And also what you need to make sure that you really double check it for each time. So this week, you might say, I'm going to experiment with one AI tool like Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT. I'm going to try to use it to complete one work task. Give me the information, and then I'm going to mess with it and play around with it. Help you identify one skill that you can use to strengthen it. Update your LinkedIn profile if you need to do that for networking purposes or you want to increase your visibility a little bit more within your industry and organization. So remember, there's a lot of different ways that you can use it to help you think through things. And for this next month, so let's just say like through the end of July, at the end of this month, you could say, okay, how did this go? Where did it help me? Where do I need to leverage it a little bit more? Where do I need to make sure that I'm really staying on top of how it responds, et cetera, et cetera? And I highly recommend, even if you go to LinkedIn Learning or Coursera, let's say, taking like a 1 hour LinkedIn basic, I'm sorry, AI training course through LinkedIn Learning, for example, just to help you get your sea legs with it, that can be enormously useful. And a lot of, by the way, the classes, for example, on Coursera.org, a lot of those are free, so you actually don't have to pay for them. And then I would finally start to explore and read a little bit more about how AI is impacting your industry, whether it's asking AI to give you some articles on it, whether it's looking at your industry association, talking with your boss about it a little bit more, your colleagues, etc. So the questions that we had so far were fantastic. We're going to start to move into our Q&A for the end of our session today. I did want to just briefly mention, if you feel overwhelmed with this and you feel like you need a little bit more help, like how do I create the right plan for myself that is reasonable, but also like makes sense for me and my organization, etc. That's why we're here. We're happy to help. I always offer a free consult so you can learn about our services and find out if it's the right thing for you at this point or not. I put the link to the consult also in the chat box as well. You can use the QR code there either way. There also is a coupon code that we give for our alum from American University. We always give a discount. And there's a link there that you can use as well to go to our different packages and services. So, what I'm hoping from today, and let's go ahead and start to write down one action step that you will take for the next week that will help you feel a little bit more comfortable with AI and start to kind of take baby steps with it, if that makes sense for you. So, let's go ahead and write those down. If you would do me a favor and put those in the chat box as well, I would love to see those action steps. So let's go ahead and put those in there if you would. And then any questions or additional questions that we have about this, I'd be happy to answer. And remember, like I said, I've kind of been sticking my toe in the water with it too. It's not always the first thing that I think of, but I've been trying to get better. Like I actually have a post-it note on my desk that's like, can AI help with this? Whatever. Um, and you can use the information it gives you or not, but you'll start to learn like how different platforms give you different types of answers. And again, you can use different platforms. So, for example, if your organization uses Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever, you can try Claude.ai and see if it gives you like different responses there. You could even ask AI like what the differences are between different platforms. And we've got one person who's sharing take a LinkedIn AI intro course. That's awesome. I love that because that can help you just get your sea legs with, okay, what's going on? What's the deal? In addition to the nuggets we've given you today. Any other questions or action steps that people want to share? And I'm hoping this was helpful for you all too, to feel I don't know, a little bit less overwhelmed. Like I know that the different things we talked about today with confidentiality, et cetera, like it may feel like a lot. Just try it out and play around with it a little bit. It's just like if you buy a new computer, for example, you need to learn kind of what the different things do. And please know, though, that it's understandably built to be pretty intuitive because AI, they want people to use it. So know that as you practice with it and leverage it over time, you will get comfortable really quickly with it, I think, too. So, Alyssa, as we're waiting for any other comments or questions to come through, anything that you want to announce?
Well, one, I wanted to thank you for this wonderful presentation and the wealth of resources that and ideas that you've shared. So I wanted to start with a thank you, and I also wanted just to echo I love the idea of the drafting, like the prompts of like drafting a networking message. Excuse me, I just actually tried that while you were presenting. I went into ChatGPT and specifically I asked it to draft a networking message to alumni in 200 characters or less for LinkedIn, because that's what, when you have a free LinkedIn account, you have that restricted amount of characters. So I think that's a common question that I get in coaching sessions of, okay, so I'm I'm bought into the idea of reaching out. What should I say? So I think the help with scripting is really helpful.
Yeah, the scripting is very helpful, especially like what I find is because I tend to be long-winded, is that it can help me make things more concise, but also organize my thinking into the right structure of like what you were saying, the messaging. And I found with a lot of our clients, the easiest way to start testing it out is to use it for what you're saying, content generation in whatever way, shape, or form. That's the easiest way to kind of get like your sea legs with it because it helps you feel more comfortable. You see how it works, you see how it can help. So if you just like have it help you create emails in the next couple of weeks, that can be a great way to get started with it.
Hmm. I also like the prompt of conduct a mock interview for X role, or something I've done, and I'll show as a compliment, as a supplement to a coaching or advising appointment, and I'll show the individual I'm working with. I pasted the job posting into into AI and saying like, create a set of interview questions for this role, and then it's customized, and it can come up with some really great technical questions that I would not have thought of that quickly. So that can also be a great way to partner with your career coach by, if you wanted to either do something like that in a session or in advance, to because it usually generates like 20 to 25 questions just automatically when you just make it general. Of course, you could ask for fewer or more questions, of course, and adjust the prompt. But that could be something that an individual can bring to their career coaching appointment and say, I did a little bit of chatting with AI in advance. Here are 5 to 10 questions that, sample interview questions I would like us to practice. So, if you could use this as the framework and then come up with some other random ones or whatnot, because I always like to try to tailor my interview prep as much as possible to that individual by saying, are there questions that you stumbled over or you're nervous about or that you feel like need a little more polishing and that kind of thing. But then also it's good to ask some questions that are kind of curveball questions just to test out people's ability
Yeah,
to think quickly on the spot. So
great.
these are
And you
some
could
ways I
see,
think that the tools can be a partner, a thought partner.
yeah, no, totally. It's the way, and it thinks faster, like you said. So it's like it can give you information that you might come up with yourself over time, but it gives you information a lot faster.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's helpful too.
And speaking of interviewing, the announcement I did want to make is I will be conducting a presentation in 2 weeks and one day on Thursday, July 23rd at noon, same time, uh, on the topic of interviewing, mock interviewing, and in particular, showcasing and doing a demo of an AI enhanced tool that alumni have access to called Big Interview, which is a way for you all to practice doing recorded kind of, I guess there's different phrasing I've heard people use, but like asynchronous interviewing, on-demand interviewing, or one-way interviewing, I think are some of the kind of common expressions. And this is more and more I'm hearing anecdotally and reading online that employers are using these kind of pre-recorded interviews
Yeah,
as as a key part of, especially in often the first phase or two of the interviewing process.
yeah,
So I think that it's even more, advantageous to get familiar with these types of tools. So
yeah,
the good news with our tool is that you can see how you did. You can, you can review yourself. The AI portion of it also reviews you based on different criteria. It told me that I say too often, for example, so that was good feedback to hear. Although not fun to hear, but it's good to know.
yep,
So
yep,
that will, let's see if we have, I'm going to put that chat in. I know as we just see if there, and I know there's a comment here that someone's having
yeah,
trouble wording the question. I don't
yep.
know.
I need to,
I don't know if that person wants to come on. Yeah. Okay. Well, feel free to email. I'll put my email into the chat as well. And I will leave with us with the link for the last presentation in 2 weeks. And we thank so much, Hallie, for your time. Anything that you want to end on?
baby steps. Just play around with it a little bit. And just because you play around with it and try it out doesn't mean you have to take the information. And, like you are in control. So think about it that way. And I really appreciate your time today, everybody. We greatly appreciate it, especially during summertime too. So baby steps, just kind of play around with it a little bit.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
you will get the recording, the slides you download from us. So Hannah, for your response, the slides use the QR code or the link that I put in the chat.
Thank you. And I just posted the link to the handshake event for the next webinar on the 23rd.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you all, and we will hopefully see you in 2 weeks.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.